All right, just checking out this. I haven't done this in a while, so bear with me. The purpose of this live is really to get most of your questions answered. I have been away for some time, and I'm here watching the stream just to make sure it's all working right. And one of the first things I want to start with is to address some of your questions. Like I said, the fact that I've been away for some time has really not been, have not been productive. I've been busy working. My schedule has been quite very unpredictable in the past couple of weeks and to months, and I've been dealing with a lot of personal projects as well. And that's really why I haven't been really consistent with these videos. But I've been seeing all your questions. I've been seeing all your comments. A lot of you have reached out to me on Instagram, and I have gotten to a point where I can't catch up with all the questions. And that is why I'm doing this live. And I hope this is a lot more easier. It's more interactive. So of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comment section or the chat section. I'll be able to address them right with you, while I am also answering some of the questions that I haven't answered in the past. So of course, this video is going to be available to those of you that may not be able to watch the whole full video, but at least I will be able to address hopefully some of your questions live with you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat section. I'll see it and I'll be able to respond to it. And let's see. Well, I just got my first question from Ruben. It says, hello, Stephen, how are you? First of all, I want to thank you for all your videos. I would like to ask you if you know what verifiable reference. All right, a verifiable reference is literally, so the best place to get a verifiable reference is someone that is maybe your instructor, like a flight instructor, someone that is in a position to really say a lot about you. So if you are someone, I don't know what your background is. If you're someone that maybe if you're trying to get into a flight school, then maybe a verifiable reference would be someone from your college, or from, if you're in high school, maybe from your school, from your high school. That would be a good place to get a verifiable reference. And the whole idea of a verifiable reference is someone they can call that is in the position to give you a good solid recommendation. Not give the airline a recommendation about you, if that makes sense. All right, the next question is from Thomas here. It says, other than TUI and BA, are you aware of any other fully sponsored cadetships in the UK? It sounds like Virgin might open sometime later this year. I emailed them to ask. So right now in the UK, I honestly am not aware of any other program. The only one, like you mentioned, is the Virgin one that may be opening up sometime this year, but there's no specific date. But I'm not aware of any other program right now. Hey, Michael, how's it going, man? Good to see you. How's your training going so far? The last time I checked on you, you were going on your solo, and hopefully you've gotten all that behind you now. So how's it going? Let me know. And Ruben, I hope I got your question answered. So if you need a verifiable reference, the best person to reach is someone of authority from your school, someone of authority from an organization that is well recognized. That would be a good place to get a reference for whatever you need it for. Anyway. And that's why I always say, if you need a reference, don't just email random people for a reference, all right, to give you a recommendation, because it sometimes isn't strong enough to say that you want to get your letter of recommendation from someone that has a lot to say about you. and that person must know you, or not just someone that you've maybe met on the internet, because I've seen people, a lot of, well, some people have actually emailed me in the past asking for a letter of recommendation, and the truth is I don't know anything about you, and there's no way I can write anything, say important or something detailed about you. There's no way I can do that because I just don't know much about you. And that's why you need to reach out to people that you have worked with in the past. If possible, if your goal is to get into an airline, then that's when you can consider your flight instructor, someone that has done a check ride with you, someone that you have flown with in the past, someone that has just tested you and that can say good things about you, hopefully. Let's see. I don't want to miss most of these comments here. I hope this is right. All right, next one here is say Jack. Hi, Steven. Just wanted to say thank you for the recent 2-week content. You've helped me progress to the assessment center stage. That's awesome, man. So talking about that, I actually wanted to make a video about that, but I decided to hold off. The reason is because I know some of you are getting your interview dates sometime in April, mid-April. So my plan is to make a video that actually covers some information towards the first week in April or so, that gives you at least maybe 2 weeks, 2 weeks, I would say, window before your interviews. But the point here is, I would say some of it here. If you haven't done so already, of course, watch some of my 2-week program videos that I've made. You will find a lot of information on how to prepare for your interviews. But the other important thing I want to say is that understand that for that interview, I believe you'd have to do a one-on-one, not one-on-one, but at least you do an in-person interview. And then you also have to do what they call some group exercise and also some other type of assessments. I really don't know the detail of those other assessments that may come up that day. But one of the things you can definitely prepare for is the group exercise, and of course your normal 1 to maybe 2 to 1 interview, or 2 to 3 interview, 1 to 2 interview. In this case, you are being interviewed by 2 to 3 people. So that's something you might need to prepare for. And one of the best recommendations I would give to you is to practice. All right, it's easy to think you have all the answers in your mind or in your head, and you'll be able to perform on the day of the interview. But the best practice, even when it comes to flying, is to chair fly, right? I'm sure some of you that are into training already knows what it means to chair fly, but that's the same thing you want to do when it comes to your interview. Not fly in this case, but in this case, you want to practice. So have a series of questions that you've maybe gathered online. There's so many questions on the internet you would find for free. You can use those questions to practice your answers, record yourself, see how you're responding to this question, see how to say coherent you are, see how confident you are, see your gestures, see your, the smile, see how tense you are. All of that would give you some insight into how you want to present yourself on that day. And that's, you want to make sure you're showing up with your, the best, with your best self, right? Because you would have a lot of nerves that day. You would be under a lot of pressure. You would have a lot of, you'll be tense, right? And that's why you want to make sure that you practice as much as you can, so that way you can be relaxed and hopefully deliver that day. All right, let's see. Moving on to the next one here. So Ruben, so since I'm not a pilot, I think the best option is to request my unit teachers to write me some. Absolutely, Ruben. So to answer your question, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So if you are not a pilot yet, you've not started your training, but you can get your university teachers, a professor, someone of authority in your department, that is the person you want to reach out to for a letter of reference or recommendation. All right. Cool. Let's see. Why VR aviation? I'm 17. I'm planning on doing integrated ATPL course in an airline cadet program. Once I graduate, would it be a bad idea to go straight into training without going into college or uni? So when it comes to getting a college degree for flight training or becoming a pilot in general, it's always recommended. It's not required. So because of that, based on your age, I don't know what your finances look like, right? if you have the ability and the means to be able to go to college while doing flight training, so that's like you're doing two things at the same time. So you're doing flight training, you're going through college. That's something you can do. But if you only have the means to do one, honestly, at your age, if you really know you want to become a pilot and you have the ability to get it done right now, I would say go get your flight training done, because you can always get your degree. You can always do an online degree program and still get your degree alongside your training, or even complete your flight training and go get your degree, right? But when it comes to being a pilot, there's always a good time. There's always a bad time to become a pilot. Right now is pretty much a good time. You have all these cadet programs going on. You have this pilot shortage, which isn't as bad as it used to be in the past, 2 years or so. But this is still a good time to become a pilot. And if you can get your training done ASAP and then go work on your degree after you've completed your training, that may be a better idea. But of course, look at your personal situation, look at your finances to make the best decision. All right. Let's see. This is for your mom. Hi, Stephen. Do you think it would be more worthwhile saving to do an integrated ATPL course, or work and complete a modular course in terms of things like ease of getting a job at the end? I wish I could show these questions on the thing, but I do not have the ability to do that right now. But to answer your question, it all depends, right? Because if you have the means, this is kind of similar to the other question I just answered. If you have the means to be able to fund training and do an integrated ATPL program, I would say go ahead and do that now. On the other hand, if you have to raise the fund for training, or maybe you think you need more money along the way, then of course maybe a modular program would be better for you, because again, you're able to work and train. The only difficulty that I can envisage when it comes to working and going to flight school is that your ability to move at a pace that you really want will be kind of lost, because you're having to do two things compared to someone that is just doing an integrated program. And that's why an integrated program is always recommended for those that, if you know you have the funds to get it done, go ahead and knock it out. If you do not have the funds and you just have to, raise money as you go along, then of course a modular would work. Honestly, at the end of it all, excuse me, at the end of it all, you get a license, you get your certificates. It doesn't say if you did a modular or you didn't integrate it. You get a pilot license that lets you fly. So whichever route you take to achieve that goal, you just need to do what it takes and get it done. Let's see. So I decided to descend to okay, this is from FlyMickey. So I decided to descend 900 feet while flying from my mom's house. Okay, what did I? That sounds like I don't know what to call that. That sounds like a story out of the books, but hopefully you didn't get into trouble doing that, That's to FlyMickey, by the way. I did that again. That for the end, of course, and check right. I should have my PPL by May. That would be awesome, man. Mikey, that would be awesome if you can get your training done by May. And I wish you best of luck. Of course, if you have any questions, of course you can reach out to me, text me. You have my number. Let's see, Joshua. Hey, Stephen, I'm a British citizen. However, I have both studied and got a PPL and instrument in the States. I plan on working in the US. Do you know any airlines sponsoring visas or employing with H-1Bs? Right now, Joshua, I haven't seen any airline doing that recently. Now, they've done it in the past where they actually would hire people with H-1Bs, and then, somewhere along the line, you probably change your status. But right now, none of these airlines are doing that. And I honestly can't tell you why. My guess is that it's very complicated and expensive, and sometimes there, excuse me, there aren't any guarantees, all right, to the outcome of sponsoring someone. But it's definitely worth looking into. I've heard about some, there's another program. If I'm of course, I'm not sure if this is right, but I think it's EB2. I think that's what it's called. And that's something that I know a lot of people are also exploring, some from different countries. Sorry, I don't know what's in my throat. But that's something that is a lot of people are exploring. But I think that is also applicable to people with experience. So if you've been flying in a different country and you have tons of hours, that is something that I know a lot of people are exploring. But with H-1Bs right now, I would say none that I have seen. Maria, do you think I should apply for the ESA and UK licenses so I have got more chances to get employed? I'm a UK citizen. Absolutely. If you can do that, I would say you go ahead and do it because, like you said, it just gives you more options. But one thing to remember is that most of these airlines in Europe in general, especially with the Brexit situation, I'm not too familiar with the laws, but something that I know is that some airlines would only allow you to work and fly for them if you're a UK citizen. And some will only allow you to work if you are EU citizen. So you might need to look into those. I'm not 100% sure of, the airlines, but I know, for example, the latest one is the Aer Lingus. They want you to be a EU or someone, or be someone from Ireland. And I think if you're a UK citizen, I don't think you can work for them. That's my interpretation of that. But I'm not sure it's something that is worth exploring. But of course, if you have both licenses, like you're saying, it definitely would increase your chances. Let's see. This is I'm 17 right now, so the time is on my side. Thanks for the advice. You're welcome. Now that's to your mom, which is interesting. For Fly My Cable too, man. I'm thankful I didn't get too much in trouble. Awesome, man. Don't do that again, though. Hi, Steven. This is from Mohammed. Hi, Steven. Currently 17, doing A-level math, economics, and physics. What can I do to stand out from now to boost my chances during cadet pilot applications? Love your work. Bye. Thanks, Mohammed. One thing I always say to people is, yes, you may be doing the sciences, you may be doing physics, you may be doing chemistry, you may be doing all this, prerequisites for a pilot training. It's not a prerequisite per se, but it just helps you to understand the dynamics or the aerodynamics of flying and also understand the principles of flight. But you also have to consider the other areas of life, and that's where volunteering can always be a thing to have have some experience or have some form of every airline wants to see that you're more than a pilot. Okay, not just sound academically, not just having the skills and the aptitude to fly, but they also want to see that you're human, which means, do you volunteer? Are you part of professional organizations? I mean, with being part of professional organizations comes with the opportunities to volunteer, comes with opportunities to educate other people in areas that, that you may be interested in. It doesn't have to be specific to it doesn't have to be specific to aviation, just so you know. It's just one of those things that they want to see that you are more than just someone trying to become a pilot. And with your age right now, you want to consider those organizations out there. And there's so many of them. I don't know where you are in the world, but if you're in the UK, if you're in the US, there's so many organizations you can be part of. You should consider looking into those and start volunteering and start, even if it's like a mentorship program. And as long as you can put those things on your resume to show that you're part of those organizations, and of course they're doing good things to make the world a better place, airlines want to see that. So that's something you can definitely consider. Another thing you can consider is, I've shared some, what do you call these programs again? Glider programs out there that is not really, they're not expensive to get into, but the experience of those type of having that background definitely helps you to go into powered flights, right? And that's where you showing that you are truly interested in becoming a pilot comes from those type of experiences from your past. So if you can get into those type of programs that maybe they introduce you to flight training early or glider programs, those go a long way as well. And I think I've shared those on my videos or in my videos in the past as well. Let's see. So Maria passed technical assessment with FT and Skyborn and currently waiting an interview date. All right. Best of luck to you, Maria. Of course, if you have any questions, you can send me a message on Instagram. But for Skyborn and FTE, I think it's really similar to what some of the, I don't know if you applied for the BA program last year. The process is exactly the same. And since you've already done the technical assessment, the rest of the interview should be I believe should be straightforward. Considering, I'm guessing you are sponsoring yourself through this program, it should be quite straightforward. So best of luck to you. All right, talking about, well, so yeah, Fly Mickey, there's the Skyborn, there's a UK Skyborn as well, and then there's the Skyborn in the US, which you're right. So what I believe what happens is that depending on your phase of training, if you're from the UK, they send you to the US to do some of your training as well. And I think after some time you go back to the UK to complete your training. I really don't know how that works, but yeah, you're right. The one in Vero Beach, that's correct, Mickey. Harvin, hey Steven, hope you're doing good. Do you think the selection committee of the cadet selection team choose candidates who have connections within the company, for example, a cousin or family? To some extent, I'll be honest. To some extent, some airlines do give what do you call more? What's the word for it now? So there's something called internal recommendations, all right, with airlines. And if you have an internal recommendation, it's like you are given a higher chance of getting through as long as you do well in the assessment, as long as you do well with the interview. If it comes down to two people, let's say, for example, two people, one has an internal recommendation and the other person doesn't, there's a higher probability that the person with an internal recommendation gets through. And that is where, again, you can't fault them for that, because at the end of the day, if you have a very strong letter of recommendation from someone that is trusted by the airline, they would prefer the candidate over someone having a letter of recommendation from someone that they do not know. The airline do not have any form of, connection with this person. So they will prefer to pick someone that has a family member that is well behaved in the company over someone that do not have anybody. And again, that sounds partial, but the truth is, if you had a business, would you prefer to give the opportunities to someone that you know and you are sure can do the job, or someone that you know but you are not 100% certain about how they can, how they perform? Yeah, and like I said, it's not just about being competent in passing the technical assessment, because a lot of people can be very good with taking technical assessments and they might not have the great attitude, right? You might not want to fly with those kind of people, but some with internal recommendations would have that upper hand because maybe they've had the opportunity to meet with, for example, the chief pilot, right? They've been able to interact with the chief pilot. The chief pilot has been able to assess this candidate and sees that, okay, I like this person, I want this person to work with us. As long as that person can go through the interviews, make it through all the stages of the assessment process, why not? So it may sound a little bit partial, but that's just the reality of how it works. All right, let's see. Sir, by your name. No problem. Alvin, also, do you know any cadet programs where international students can apply? So this is a big one. For some of you that are from different parts of the world, I know that a lot of you would, outside of Europe or US, for example, a lot of you would ask for, if I do have any recommendations of cadet programs that may be available to you, say from India, from Nigeria, Ghana, and so forth. The truth is, it's really hard to find cadet programs that sponsor people from certain countries, and that's just because most of these cadet programs are sponsored by the the airlines want to sponsor their citizens. That's just how it works. All right. So the best advice I can give to international students or from people from outside of Europe or UK or US is that you want to look into programs that are funded within your country. That is the best place to start. And honestly, they're difficult to find, but here occasionally you would come across some of these programs. All right, let's see. Moving on to the next one here. You're welcome, Ruben. Hi, Stephen. Thanks for your advice so far. It's been really helpful. You're welcome, SB. Bendel. Hi, Stephen. I'm moving into TUI, the next stage. Doing an airline prep course beforehand. Help my All right, Bendel, I see the message. Best of luck to you. I'm kind of lost at the last sentence you sent there. Something about my FL. I don't know what that means, or FI. I guess your flight instructor recommended. Got it. All right, that makes sense. Best of luck to you, of course. Like I said, one of the things I always say to you is, practice as much as you can. As long as you're using the prep program, that should definitely help you. I have SB. I have an assessment center with TUI, but I'm worried about the group exercise. Are there any tips or common scenarios or resources you recommend for that? All right. When it comes to group scenarios or group exercises, it can vary from simple things like having a list. So, for example, I remember with, I think it was Skyborn or even FTE, one of them, they would let you they'll give you a list of things. They'll give you a scenario. A good scenario will be, you're flying from one part of the world and maybe ran out of fuel, or something happened, the airplane had to make an emergency landing, and now you're stuck on an island without any much resources out there. But you have 30 items and you can only pick 10 of those items along with you, or with those that are with you and your passengers. How would you prioritize picking those 10 items? And then they might have divided it into two sets, or two individuals in a group, or maybe 3 individuals in a group, and you guys would have to work together to pick those items in the list amongst the list of 30. Now, the issue with that is, a big thing that comes to mind is, one, understand that they want to see how you work with other people. 2, they want to see how you communicate. 3, they want to see how you are able to collaborate and share ideas. All right. And those are things that doesn't necessarily come naturally to a lot of people. So my advice to you is, yes, you can try to go over different scenarios, but understand that every airline will come up with a scenario. They always try to change the scenarios over and over, and it can be as simple as this list of things that the example I just gave you, right? Or it can be another one of say you are flying a rescue helicopter and you have to rescue, you can only take 5 people. Now you have a hold person amongst the people you can take. You have an older person. You have someone that is maybe blind. You have another person that is maybe deaf. You have another person that is maybe unable to walk, and they just kind of come up with these scenarios. And then you guys would have to decide how to pick up those people that need help. In your helicopter, they can only take maybe 3 people, right? So how do you choose who to leave behind and who to take on board with you? That is something that is often difficult for, if you think that one person is more important than the other. In reality, it's not really about how important one person is over the other over the other passenger, over the other person that is amongst the group of people that you have to help. What it comes down to is just the ability to deliberate amongst your team members or amongst your group, and then decide together. And that is really the key thing, that your ability to work together as a team. So my advice to you is, you can practice with some of these scenarios out there, but it is important that you show that you can be part of a team. It is important that you show that you can communicate. It's important to show that you can compromise, because you are not going to be, they want to see that you can lead, right? Leadership skills, but you also want to show that you can be part of a team. So you don't want to be too dominant, but also at the same time, you also don't want to be too passive, right? You just don't want to be there without contributing to the team. So your goal should be to be as collaborative, as expressive. In this case, you're able to express yourself and your opinions, and make sure that you are considering other people's opinions as well. And of course, make sure you don't run out of time, because it will time you. So don't run out of time. That's important advice. All right. I hope that helps. Let's see. Let me see the page. All right. Ruben, I would like to ask about the CV. I'm a lawyer in Spain, so my CV is, let's say, very juridic. Any recommendations regarding the CV for an aviation program application? So to Ruben, my advice to you is understand that they are not really looking for you to have an aviation background. They don't expect everyone to have an aviation background. So don't think that is going to be a disadvantage to you. It's not going to be, actually. And if you can tailor your CV just right, it's actually going to be an advantage. And what I mean by that is, as a pilot, there's a tendency for a lot of pilots to just have a very limited type of experience, right? Very limited experience. Maybe most people just go through a flight school and then they become a pilot, and that's all the experiences. All the experiences has always been in aviation. But for you, coming from a different background as a lawyer, you can definitely put in some of the skills and competencies that you possess as a lawyer. Give you a good example: your ability to listen and communicate, right? That's one of the skills that you need to be a good lawyer. You want to definitely listen and communicate pretty well. The other thing also is your leadership skills. So what roles have you held in the past that demonstrates your leadership skills, whether it's in school, whether it's being a lawyer? Think about your ability to work with people, right? As a lawyer, you need to be, your customer service, right? You have to have that ability to serve your customers. And in this case, coming into the world of aviation, you need that skill as well. And those are the things you want to emphasize. I always say, look at the pilot competences and pretty much find ways to go back into your own world of being a lawyer and pick some of the experiences or some of the skills that you've acquired and try to tie it into some of the pilot competences. So customer service is one, knowledge is one, application of procedure is one, you have leadership skills, another one, things like that. Your ability to put those things on your CV goes a long way, because most of the time, these CVs are generally run through some automated systems, and the automated systems, the AIs and the algorithm in the systems will generally try to pick out these competencies based on how you've laid them out in your CV. And as long as there are no grammatical errors and things like that, your CV should rank well. And if it does rank well, of course, somebody may still have to look at it to make sure that you do have the things that they are looking for, but at least it puts you in front of someone, which is what you need. And then you can hopefully go through the rest of the technical assessments and things like that. And you get the idea of going through the assessment process. But the point here is, with your CV, go back to your previous experiences as a lawyer, find ways to tie those pilot competencies into your CV. All right. You're welcome, Alvin. I see. Bendel, exactly my flight instructor. Thanks, Bendel. Victor, do you think the BA Speedway program is reopening in 2024? Yes, Victor, from what I understand and what they've been saying, it should open again sometime in spring, which, my guess is maybe April. I'm not sure, but that's the information that I have for now. Of course, if anything changes, I'm going to share that with you all. See, of course, what's the best? Joshua, I just yeah, I try to do this lives, and now actually the reason why I decided to go live today was because, and like I said, I actually wanted to make a video, but I was like, you know what, I needed to answer some of your questions. A lot of you have, like, I actually have my YouTube page comment section right in front of me right now, and I do have a lot of questions that I need to respond to, and I felt, you know, the best way I could answer some of you guys questions is to do it live, and that's why I decided to go live. So this is really not planned, and I have the time today. I'm off, and I decided to go live. So I definitely would want to do more of this because I can answer your questions, and it's a lot easier for me than typing and trying to respond to you. Let's see. On the side note, this is from Victor. I'm a naval aviator thinking of applying to be a speedboat program. Do you think this is a good idea? Absolutely. You're in training now. That's a good point, Victor. Now, since you're in training with the speedboat program, they always want you to have their, you know, the room, right, to go into, if you get selected, of course, to be able to go to training, and you can't be doing something else. So it's worth trying, but that means you have to give up something, assuming you get through the program, through the selection program for BA. If you get selected, then that means you have to give up something. Now, I don't know if you're willing to give up the naval aviator training, or you want to, you know, go straight into speedboat training program if you were to be selected. That's something that you'd have to decide upon when that time comes. But I like the fact that you already have something lined up, and that is, when it comes to cadet programs, it is important to have backups, okay? Oh, talking about backups, all right, it's also important to not get discouraged, because a lot of you, again, I've seen some of your comments, and I'll see how, you know, discouraged or how disappointed you are in the outcome of these cadet programs. And you have to understand that the cadet programs, a good point to kind of tie into this. If you guys have been following the speedboat program, or if you did follow it the previous time, the previous one that they did last year, in order for you to have been selected, you needed to have scored or had a perfect score. That means 100%. So I think they were scored out of 36 points. All right. So you had about 36 points available. And for you to have made it through the selection program, you needed to have scored 36. Now, that is not that is not being exaggerated. That is these are facts. All right. This is not something that I heard from someone or on the internet from somebody. No, these are facts. All right. So if you scored 35 out of 36, okay, you wouldn't have made it through. Now, does that mean someone that scored 35 out of 36 wasn't a good candidate, or does that mean that the person isn't competent? Of course not. That's not the case. And that is where the reality of these cadet programs needs to, actually, that's one of the things that inspired my last video that I just made. But that's the reality of these cadet programs. You can't just expect that you might be very good at taking the technical assessments, and you may have done really well, scored a well above average on all the assessments, and still not make it through. And that's just the reality. So I do not want any of you to get disappointed or to get discouraged by the outcome of these cadet programs. It's the reality of it. You just have to keep trying. Talking about trying, I've met with, well, not met, but interacted with a lot of some of my subscribers, some of you guys that I've spoken to on lives like this, or even through chats on Instagram. And I can mention names, but of course I don't want to put their names out there. These guys, you know, they've guys and girls, by the way, they've applied to programs in the past that they never got through. Maybe it's the two-way program, whether it's a speedboat program, they didn't make it through. But then one recently got on with like Air, which is Luxembourg Airlines, somewhere in Germany, I believe. So one person got on with that, okay? Another person got on with the BA program after multiple attempts at different airlines. Some of you are currently going through the two-way program as well. So the point here is just keep trying, keep getting better, keep practicing. and don't get discouraged. All right, I think I've really said enough on that. All right, let's see. So for Victor, just to wrap it up on your question, it is important to have a backup. Okay, so if you apply through to the Speedbird program and you are lucky enough to get through, then of course you can decide on what to do, if you want to continue your naval training or you want to start training for the Speedbird program, or go through, if you want to start going through the program with the BA program. That will be up to you. But if the BA program doesn't really work out, you still have your naval aviator training going on. All right, let's see. So for the Aer Lingus ab initio program, let me see. I do not know what the first stage of what the assessment actually has. I don't know the details, but I do have something for you. Let me pull this up here. Let me see if I can pull up this information on PASS. I've shared PASS with you guys in the past, but I just want to see what they have on that. Just give me a second here. Aer Lingus. All right, I'm going to share my screen. So if you haven't seen that, that is something you can definitely consider. This is the PASS program, and it's a Aeon online aptitude test. So it's really similar to some of those BA programs. They all are very similar programs. So one thing I would say is, find whatever resource you have. This is one that is available. You have ATPL refresher courses on this one, reasoning tests, about 400 questions. You have 130 math questions. Actually, maybe, I'm not sure if you can see those things. Let me do this. So I don't know if you've checked this one out already, Ruben. If you haven't, then of course you can check it out. But again, you don't have to use PASS. You have different programs out there, but PASS is one that I've tried in the past. It's worked well. I've recommended it to a lot of people, and I've always gotten good feedback about it. Of course, I do have a discount code as well, Steven Aviate. If you check my videos, you find it in the description section. You can always use those as well to give you, I think, €5 off your first purchase, I believe. But the benefit of this is that they do have all these tests, and it's more than just the test itself. So for example, they have things on group exercise. All right, they have HR panel questions or technical interviews that you can use to prepare for. So the idea is they'll give you the questions that you can expect, and hopefully, and even give you some of the answers that they recommend. Okay, so that's a good thing. And then you just need to go think about it, practice it, and of course put your own personal touch to it. But at least you won't be missing the important detail. All right. So yeah, this is what it really looks like. All right. Let me see. I'm trying to just take a look at. I can't see all of this because I'll need to subscribe for it, but I am not subscribed to it just yet. And then the other important thing that I like about the PASS program is you see those latest topics. So for example, it says the Future Pilot Program 2024. This is from someone, I'm guessing people are already purchasing the program, and then they're putting in their feedback. All right. So I think that is definitely important. That helps as well. So yeah, you can check that out. All right, from Mark Baker, something about that I mentioned in one of my last videos, that a letter of recommendation is important when applying for the Speedbird program or Speedbird Pilot Academy program. To BA accept letters of recommendation. None that I know of, they don't. And I don't think I mentioned that you can submit a letter of recommendation to them. But I believe, assuming you get selected, they may have, I'm not sure. You may be asked to submit a letter of recommendation. I'm not sure about that. But during the application itself, you're not asked for a letter of recommendation. So I'm not sure if that is something that was misunderstood, or maybe I said in error. But the point is, you do not have to submit a letter of recommendation to BA during the application process, at least going through the Speedbird program application process. And you're welcome, Ruben. Cool. Yeah, so the other thing to also mention is, if you guys are looking for ways to, if you're looking for ways to fund training, flight training, one of the important things I always say is, before you commit to any program or any flight school out there, of course, do your research, consider costs, location, and all that. But more importantly, you want to make sure that you have the means, right? So if you're going to use a loan, for example, right, find reputable organizations that won't put you in a very difficult position to be able to repay for training. So I don't know if some of you are interested in, maybe looking for in financial institutions. All right. Somebody actually shared Lendwise, I believe that's what it's called. Let me see if I can pull it up here. And this is for people in the EU or UK region. A personal loan. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Yes. So for UK student loans, let me pull it up on this computer real quick. I should have done it here instead of that one. And this is just what somebody shared with me, or shared with a group that I'm part of. And I just thought I could share it with you as well. For some of you that are looking for ways to fund your training if you're in the UK area region. And this is from Lendwise, I believe, lendwise.com. I don't know much about this financial organization, but they've used it and they've recommended it. So I'm just recommending it to you. Of course, do your own research, check it out. You can always get some personal loan towards training. Now, of course, the best way to get your training done is to get a fully sponsored program. So keep trying for these fully sponsored programs if you can. Those will definitely help as well. So that way you don't have to incur the cost of training. Let's see. All right, this is from Juliet Bravo. All right, JB, what's your insights on flight school in the US versus flight school in Canada? Well, I have one thing I've realized, okay, when it comes to training, is that when it comes to flight training, you can train anywhere. So I want you to understand that. You can train anywhere, but it all comes down to what you want. All right. If I'm guessing you have the ability to train in the US and in Canada. So my advice to you is, which one would give you the ability to finish, in a good time? That means you can go through training in a very good pace. Not something that will take you years when it could have taken you, maybe a year, but now it's taking you 2 years, right? So those are personal things that you have to consider, because the other thing also is, I don't know how financially able, all right, or how financially capable you are when it comes to being able to, maybe, I don't know where you live right now, right? But I'm guessing you have the ability to choose between Canada and the US. Both places are great to train. Depending on the area you are in Canada, you may have to deal with a lot of weather, all right, because it's cold, snow, and all that. That's not something that is really aviation friendly in a way. So that means, if you're training in a place that has extreme weathers, you may have difficulty completing your training as quickly as you can. But the US also, depending on what part of the US you are in or you're going to train, you may have the same issues. And that's why I'm saying, it all goes back to your own personal preference. But one thing I know is that the US definitely has a lot of aviation training organizations, and you have various costs or various financial implications to that. So, for example, someone training in New York versus someone training in Florida will have different financial goals, all right, that they have to meet when it comes to even just living expenses, transportation, things like that. So you're different. The issues you experience in one part of the US could be significantly different from another part. But you just have to do your research, all right? But one thing to always keep in mind when it comes to training is the weather. The weather plays a big part in how fast you can complete training. The other thing, of course, number one is always safety, okay? That's important. But the other thing is weather. Consider the facilities, all right? What do they provide in terms of, do they have enough airplanes to go around? Do they have enough instructors to go around? And then, of course, cost is another thing, okay? Because you can find different flight schools in different parts of the world, but they all have different costs, all right, to train. And that's where you need to look into that yourself. But my preference, because of the fact that I've been in the US for a while, I would say US. That's because I'm more familiar with the system here. I know that there are a lot of options, all right, for you. Whereas with Canada, you don't really have a lot of options, even when it comes to flying as a profession, all right? So that's just my own opinion. All right, what's the fact that I use simulators and explain. All right, this is from Ruben. The fact that I use simulators like X-Plane or MSFS, Microsoft Flight Simulator, following real procedures and using real hardware is a worthy thing to mention in my presentation later. You can, but of course you can't count that as an experience, right? You can mention it as part of like hobbies, okay? But you can count that as experience, and you can add it to, the important areas of your CV. But when it comes to like hobbies, oh, absolutely. You can say, you can put anything in your hobbies, right? It's what you do for fun, and aviation related activities like that can definitely count. Even if you fly RC or remote controlled planes, that's something you can put in your hobbies, all right? That doesn't hurt. For Mark Baker, to answer your question, the last application, the last run of the Speedbird program, they had about 25,000 applicants. That was at the onset, okay? But majority were disqualified for various reasons, and a big part of that is the requirements, not meeting a requirement to be a UK citizen or have the ability to live in the UK was a big part of the disqualifications. So, cut long story short, at the onset of the application, they had about 25,000 applicants, and then it dropped to about 10,000 going into the second phase, which is the video interviews and video interviews. And then, of course, they slowly trickled down to the 100 applicants that made it through. So, yeah. Let's see. Do you recommend to prepare for logical, verbal, mathematical tests for the TUI Belgium MPL intake test? Now, for the TUI Belgium, I think the process is the same or similar anyway. But I haven't looked at it. I haven't looked into that in a while. But yes, you should definitely prepare for the logical and verbal and mathematical test. Now, again, I'm going to recommend Pass Again. I know they have a program for that. And I know that the program itself, if I go back here, let me search for TUI, for example. And I can share, let me share my screen with you here. So this same program here applies, this TUI Fly Netherlands. This same one applies to the TUI Fly Belgium, TUI Airways UK, TUI Nordic, and the TUI MPL Cadet program. So this same package applies to any of them. And that's why I said they kind of are all similar, all right? So for example, it has a mental math, planning exercise, role play exercise, personality test, psychological interview, HR interview, and let me see. Scrolling down here, let me move this out of the way. So now that I see the verbal and mathematical test. So yeah, definitely mathematical test, logical and verbal reasoning test. I don't see that here. All right. Actually, you have logical reasoning, and yeah. So definitely, this has everything you need. All right. So this has the reasoning tests, both the abstract and logical. This has the mental math tests, and the rest is just the interviews and the likes. So if I want to prepare for anything, this is what I would use. It seemed like, this was updated in January 2024. So it's definitely has been recently updated. So yeah, this is something that I would use. But again, do your research, make sure that you have the latest information. I'm not too familiar with the TUI Belgium itself, but this package does apply. So I would definitely use that. Let's see. I'm trying to see how many credit programs, how many applications. And also, Mark Baker, just to make sure that I fully addressed your question, or I answered your question. When it comes to the applications or the number of applications that these airlines get, it all depends on the location and the number of interests, of course, right? So for example, with the Speedbird program, they got about 25,000 applications, and they only wanted 100 people. For the TUI, I believe they had about 10,000 applicants, all right? And they are only going to take about 30 people. So the point here is it all depends on the location or the airline itself, because everybody wants to work for BA, right? British Airways, compared to any other nothing against the other airlines, but the point is that there's a brand, there's a lot of recognition, all right, that goes along with British Airways compared to any other airline out there. So it's hard to expect that every other airline will get 25,000 applications, all right, or 25,000 applications. That's a lot. Like I said, majority of those were disqualified because of just the fact that they do not meet certain requirements. So keep that in mind. Let's see, Joshua, with Lendwise, you still need to put up half of the money, so it's not very straightforward. Thanks, Joshua. Thanks for bringing that up. I didn't know that part, but it's interesting that you still have to put up half of the money. Yeah, I didn't know that part, but thanks for bringing that up. All right. And how are you doing, by the way? It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Thanks, Ruben. Let's see, Juliet Bravo. Okay, thank you. I'm from Jamaica. I would like to do flight school in the US, but I'm a non-citizen and it will be very hard for me to work and pay back loans due to the US non-citizen. That's definitely true. But one thing I would say to you, Juliet Bravo, is that I was a non-citizen myself, right? And in the US, now considering I had my own training funded, all right, but the reality is that I know a lot of people that have gone through similar situations as you, and I want you to know that it's possible. You just have to find ways to still get it done. It's really up to you. Of course, you have to look at your own personal goals and plans for your life, and then you decide on how you want to achieve those goals. But I want you to know that it's possible. There's always going to be restrictions when it comes to being a foreigner, but you just have to put your best foot forward, and hopefully you're able to achieve those goals. And this is Joshua. PASS is a great resource. I've used it and it helped me get to the interview stage of the Speedbird pilot program. Absolutely. I'm hoping for you, Joshua. I'm hoping that you'll be able to hopefully apply again in this coming one. I don't know exactly when it opens, but from what I'm told, or from what I've heard, is that it opens again sometime in spring. So I'm hoping anytime soon it should be coming. It should become available, and hopefully you can apply again. If I'm successful with BA Speedbird program, could I choose when to start training? No, you cannot choose, Mark. So yeah, you may have some flexibility here and there, but you can't really. They want you to. The idea with the Speedbird is you have to be able to once you they'll give you a date to start, and even from the application it tells you when you can expect to start training. So they may say fall of 2024 or something like that, or they may say spring of 2025. So you have to be available from that point on, otherwise they will disqualify you, you know. So, and because when you're putting the application, they would have asked you, you know, you are committing to the program in a way, of course, if you get selected. So if for any reason you then get selected and then you come back and say, you know, you can't start training because of X, Y, and Z, you are most likely going to be disqualified, and of course you don't want that. Cool. Let's see, what else am I missing here? Of course, feel free to actually, I want to share this one here. Best way to prepare for the Speedbird program. The best way is to, one, get to know a lot of things about the British Airways, right? The brand. Get to learn about the operation. That's definitely important, because one of the tests you'll be doing from the onset of the application, which is the SJT, or the situational judgment test, will kind of test you on some of the BA operations. All right. And unfortunately, you can't, you know, I believe they asked 20 questions on the SJT, and maybe 4 of them were really BA related questions. The rest were just kind of situational judgment type questions. So I don't want you to think that, you know, by going through all the information or the history of BA and all that won't pay off. It does pay off, even though at the onset of your of the assessment, you may not get a lot of questions that are related to BA per se. But as you go along in the interviews, as you go along into the stages of the assessment, you would see that it's still beneficial to know about the airline. Now, of course, it helps you to also understand the operation of British Airways. So, best way to prepare, of course, get to know the airline. The second thing is, again, it seems like I'm revising myself a lot, to use PASS. Okay, PASS does have a lot of programs for, or does offer programs for the BA assessment selection process itself. Then the other thing also is a big part of if you can make it through the first stage. The second stage is the video interviews, and where you have to record yourself. The third stage is where you do the school exercises, in a way, where you do like an interview, and then you may do like a group exercise and all. And then you now have the BA, at least going off the last selection timeline or selection phases that he had. On the last phase, you'd have to do what they call like a simulator assessment as well. So if you have Microsoft Flight Simulator or X-Plane, of course, getting to use those things do help you. It would definitely help. The other thing also is when it comes to preparing for BA, BBC Byte test. Let me share Byte. I think it's Byte size. Let me say, all right, this here. All right. When it comes to preparing for those assessments, this definitely goes a long way. And I believe you can use, not science. I'm looking for the math. I'm not too familiar with this one, but you can go to the math section. All right. And you can definitely use this to prepare as well. But I'm actually, don't know which one. Well, just give me a second here. Okay. the BBC Bytes maths, definitely, this is one that they even recommended. All right. And I'm just trying to find, there's a direct link to like a page. I have it on some of my BA videos. I would just have to go look for it. But if you check my BA videos, you would find it there. This exam certification, exam star. You can choose any of these ones. All right. But I know one of the areas, I'm not too sure right now of the specific one to choose, to be honest. But I know there's a direct link that they recommended that you can use to practice. Prepare for the maths section, especially. Sorry. And then, of course, you then have the check-in tests. And then you have the, what other test again is there? So you have the decision judgment test, you have the math, and then you have the check-in test. Yeah, those are the 3 tests that you have to do at the onset. And those generally just require that you're able to finish within a set time. And I think the time factor is really the big deal there. For Joshua, I think I would recommend, it depends on your situation. When it comes to integrated or modular, I would recommend integrated if possible. Okay. But again, for you and your situation, it all depends on how you are able to fund training while you are, going through the integrated program. For example, if you have the means to fund training and complete everything, then of course the integrated route is what I would recommend. If you're unable to then, fund the training completely, then of course do the modular route. All right. That just makes sense, right? You do it as you go, and then you pay for what you can afford at the time. Because the worst thing you can do is to start training and then run out of money, and then you are away from training for a while because you're trying to gather money again, and that can definitely set you back. So what I always tell people is, if you do not have the complete funds for training all at once, what you can do is to save up enough to do, let's say, your PPL. All right. Once you complete your PPL, at least you got the license, and then you can then maybe go raise the funds for your CPL, for example. And once you have enough for that, you come back and do the CPL and get it all done. But the worst thing is to, let's assume that you have 10 grand, right? And you enroll in a PPL program and you have no plans to raise the rest of the funds needed to complete your PPL. And now you run out of that 10 grand and you still do not have your PPL and you've spent all the money. And now it's like you're stuck, right? Because you've spent the 10 grand, you don't have a PPL, you have nothing to show for it. You're out of training for a very long time. And then you come back, right, to train, and it's like you're having to start all over again. And this is generally what leads to a lot of people spending thousands and thousands of dollars on training, and they have nothing to show for it, or they only have one thing to show for it, and as we know, with training, you're spending a lot of money as you go along. So the best thing you can do is save enough to complete at least a phase of the training, right? So let's say you want to go for PPL, try to have enough. And for example, if you're able to do a job and you can fund your training, of course, then do that too, right? But at least you have a means to be able to keep raising the funds as you're going through training. But if you do not have the means to do that, and your goal is just your plan is that you have a pile of cash that you want to use towards training, and you're sure that that cash is not going to be enough to complete it, right? I would say you wait until you have enough to complete that training, or at least that phase of training, before you start. Because once you start, that money will keep, it's just going up in flames, and you don't have ways to replenish it, right? So you want to keep that in mind. You don't want to start when you can't finish. All right, start it and knock it out, finish it, then maybe take a break, go raise the rest of the funds, then come back, knock the next phase out. That's what you want to do. That's correct, and Joshua, you're right. All right, that the modular will definitely spread out the costs, which makes it bearable, right? But like I said, you just don't want a situation where you spread it out too far, and then your training is very disorganized in a way. All right, because you started and then you stopped for a very long time, and then you come back and then you're having to do a lot of refresher course or training, and then you're spending more money instead of actually just starting a new phase of training and progress on a normal pace. So you have to remember that flying is similar to learning to drive a car, or even though it's not really close, but it's kind of, I can use that as something that you may be familiar with. So for example, if you started learning to drive, let's assume you start learning to drive today, all right? You have no clue on how to drive, you know nothing about the rules and all that. And then you learned something today, but then you take a break from learning for the next 2 weeks. Of course, when you come back, it's all going to sound like foreign to you. It's all going to be, it's not something that you've been doing consistently. And then you have to do the whole thing all over again. And then if you take a break again, then you come back and you have to do the whole thing all over again, So that can be very frustrating. The best thing is gather enough money, knock it out in the first, if you can do your training, save up enough to finish your PPL at least, so that you can finish that and then you can move to the next thing. Let's see. This is from Stars Music Buzz, something like that. Hello, which cadet program is the best in the US? Honestly, there are so many great programs in the US. Personally, I like the American Airlines cadet program. I know it's closed right now because I guess they have a lot of applicants or a lot of applications they're working through or whatever. But I like that program because it takes you from zero to literally to the mainline American Airlines, right? So I personally like that one, but that's just my own preference. Okay. But Delta's program is good. United's program, Aviate program, that's pretty good as well. The Delta Propel program is pretty good. You have so many of them. You have the Southwest Airlines as well. But personally speaking, it all goes back to what airline do you want to join at the end of the day? Do you want to fly for Delta? Do you want to fly for United? Do you want to fly for American? There's so many factors to consider. But I like the American Airlines program. So with Singapore Ab Initio cadet program, I think from what I've gathered, right, it's almost like it's open all year round or something. Let me go back here. Sorry, I kind of forgot to take this back. Because the last time I checked, it was, you can easily just apply. You just need to apply, and then, okay, right now it says it's still open, so it doesn't say when it closes, but just you can apply and then you just hope that they call you. And that's the problem with it, because a lot of people have applied and they haven't heard back, and it's like, should they keep waiting? Are they still in the process? Honestly, I can't say. But of course, if you have applied, let me know if you've heard back. I would definitely love to hear, and I'll definitely love to know your experience. But I know someone that has gone through the program, and he said, what he said was he didn't make it through, and the reason he didn't make it through was because he got to the interview stage and they said he needed more experience, and I don't know what that means, right? But I'm guessing he didn't have a college degree, right? When they had a lot of people with college degree. Now, like I said in the past, a college degree is not required, but it helps. And this is one of the reasons somebody actually asked about college degree in the past, right? And this is one of the reasons why I always recommend that, when you have a group of people applying for the same job, and let's assume they can only take 5 people, and out of the 5 openings, or for the 5 openings that is currently available, maybe they have 10 people applying. Of course, there's a chance that they will give the job to people with a lot more qualifications, and qualifications like a college degree definitely helps. Okay, qualifications like maybe having different what do you call it, certificates or different ratings on your pilot certificates, because it shows that you have more experience, or you have different you've been able to work on or fly different airplanes, assuming you already have a pilot experience, right? But the point here is having a college degree helps, but for him, what he said was, they said he needed more experience. He didn't have a college degree, and he said a lot of those that applied had like a master's degree, bachelor's degrees, and those will definitely set you apart if you don't have anything, you know. So he said they definitely love people that have degrees, right? So that's what he said, you know. This is from YVR Aviation. What do you think about taking a loan to do integrated training? Absolutely. If you have the ability to take a loan for your training, go ahead and do that and knock it out, because most of this, I wouldn't want you to wait on a cadet program. Okay, cadet programs can be exhausting, right? You apply, you don't know if you're gonna get on. They only have room for 30 people, or maybe 20 people, or maybe 100 people, and then you have thousands of people applying. So if you do not have the ability to go with the modular route, in this case, that means you have a job that maybe is paying you and you're working really hard to train yourself. The next option would be the integrated route. Okay, I have heard and I have seen some people would take a job that they can actually work and save and pay for their training as they go along, and they would go with a modular route. But if you do not have the ability to do that, and you want to finish training within a very short time, or at least with a good pace, then you should consider the integrated route. That definitely would, using a loan, of course, that would definitely save you a lot of money in the long run. Okay, because you're not having to spread out your training, and you're able to have this chunk of money available to you to fund it. Okay, this is from Ram. I'm studying for computer engineer. My parents wanted me to have a degree before pursuing pilot. That's definitely a good plan. I actually studied computer science before I started my flight training. So just similar to what you're doing. All right. I don't know how old you are, but as long as you're young, you have the time. All right. You have the time to finish your training, and then finish your degree, and then go get your pilot training. And to be honest, that information and knowledge that you have, or that you're acquiring right now, will still help, it will definitely help. So don't stop, finish your degree. It goes a long way. All right. Cool. Let me see. There was something I wanted to show earlier. Feature pilot program. All right, cool, guys. I think that would be a wrap for today. So like I said, Ram, it doesn't help in the world of aviation itself in terms of flying. Okay, to be honest, it doesn't really apply, but it helps you in other areas. And the other areas that I mean is when you're applying for a job, when you put on there that you have a degree, it puts you well above others that do not have a degree. And that's something that I was saying earlier. If you do not have a degree, you are like at the bottom, right, with every other person. But if you have a degree, it puts you slightly ahead of those others that do not have a degree, right? And that's what you want, because it increases your opportunities, or the chances of getting a job. Even though airlines will tell you it's not required, they still prefer people with degrees. I hope that helps. All right, this is from SB. It says, "Hi, Steven. Regarding your comment on picking a scheme and the best is who you want to work for, right? How hard is it to change between companies once you start working as a pilot?" It is quite challenging to change, and the reason is because once you start working, no matter the airline you join, they operate using the seniority system, and that means your pay, your schedule, your vacation, your lifestyle, all of that is based on how senior you are. So if for any reason you want to bounce from or move from one airline to the other, you're going to give up something, and that is generally your seniority. And like I said, every other thing is tied to that seniority. So let's assume that airline A today, you started with airline A, all right, today. And then, 5 years from now, you're like, oh, I want to switch from airline A to airline B. What would happen is your 5 years of experience, even though it's your experience, isn't really, quote unquote, all right, transferable in terms of the number of years, your years of service, all right, your longevity. That's what I mean, all right, isn't transferable. Your experience is yours. So you take your experience with you, you take your hours with you and all that. But your longevity in that airline isn't something that you carry to the next airline. So that means, even your pay, for example, if you're on a year 5 pay, you'd have to go to that other airline that you're joining, airline B in this case. You'd have to go back to your year 1 pay again, all right, because you're just starting with that airline. So most of these airlines, operate with that system, which can be a disadvantage to you, because even though you've spent 10 years of your time with one airline, if you move to another one, you're starting all over again. And your lifestyle, your schedule, your pay, all of that goes down with it. So that can be a reason why a lot of people would choose to stay with one airline over the other. But when it comes to switching, just changing a job itself, it's easy. You just need to apply. If they accept you, you join them. This is from Stradashe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It says, "Can I become a pilot with aviation operation course?" I don't know exactly what the aviation course is about, but yes, you can become a pilot with any program, with any degree program, with any. So, for example, in the US, we do have what we call what is it called again? Certificate courses, right? That you can take. That they're not necessarily a degree. You don't have to do a 4-year degree, or you don't have to do. They're called. Oh gosh, I've forgotten the name now. They are usually like a 2-year program that you can take, and you get what's that degree called? I can't remember now. But anyway, you can take certificate courses and you can still become a pilot. So the point here is, no matter what your degree is in, you can still become a pilot. So it doesn't matter. So you're welcome, Joshua. Lochan Gaming. What airline do I work for? I fly for FedEx. You're welcome, Ram. And what happened if you get access to an American cadet program but don't have a degree? Absolutely. To answer your question, Stars de la Music Buzz, yes, you can still, even if you don't have a degree, you can get accepted, and you can still get a job afterwards as well, because the purpose of the cadet program is really to help you progress from zero experience, to joining the major airline. So you don't, like I said, you don't need a degree, all right? And the benefit of the degree, though, is that if for any reason you want to change, let's assume that you want to change roles, all right? Sometimes you may need a degree in other areas of life, right? For example, some people are pilots, right? And at some point in time, they want to become something else, right? They want to become, they want to work in a different department of the airline, right? Some of those departments may require that you have a degree, okay? Even though your role as a pilot doesn't require a degree, doing other things outside of the airline or even within the airline but in a different department could require that you have a degree. So having a degree goes a long way. Another reason to have a degree is medical. When you're young, everyone is healthy. As you get older, medical could become an issue. And that's something that we see a lot in the airline industry, where a lot of people, as they get older, things come up, they get sick, they can't fly, and they have to do, in order for them to remain employed, for example, they have to switch to different roles because they cannot fly, because they cannot keep their medical. And that's where the degree comes in handy, okay? But to get a job as a pilot itself, you do not need the degree, but it's a good backup. Let's see. This is from Joshua. How difficult is it getting a new type rating or switching aircraft? Actually, Joshua, it's pretty easy. It's usually intense, but it's easy, if that makes sense. All right, because when it comes to getting a type rating, you already understand the basics of flying, you already understand the principles of flight, you already understand how, you already understand the relationships between all these forces of flight. So you're just learning to fly a different airplane. So majority of your time is actually spent learning the systems, okay, of the airplane, of that new airplane you want to fly. And then some of your time is also spent flying in a simulator, of course, that airplane as well, getting to know how to operate the systems. But they're not teaching you how to fly anymore at that point. So it's actually pretty easy. And that's why you can get a type rating within 2 weeks. You can get a type rating within 3 weeks, because it's very intense, very fast-paced, but you're just learning the basics at that point, because they know that once you learn the basics of that airplane, you're just building on your skills, right? You already have the basic skills of flying, but you're just building on it with this airplane. So it's quite easy. It's always intense. Like I said, it's always very condensed. It's very packed because you're learning a lot of things within a very short period of time. But that doesn't make it, it doesn't mean it's difficult. It's just intense, if that makes sense. All right, this is from Stradashay, I believe. Can you share to people that there is airlines in Bangladesh that offer fully funded cadet program? Name. Can you share to people? If you don't mind, could you send me a link to that? Stradashay, I believe, if I'm saying that name correctly. Of course I can share with people, all right, but if you can, I can also find it anyway. Maybe I can Google that myself and look it up. Oh yeah, absolutely, Felton Zachary, that's correct. Yeah, professional pilot certificate course, that is what it's called, while I attended Spartan School of Aeronautics. Yeah. Now, some flight schools will actually call these courses, they have different names for them, but at the end of it all, it's a pilot training course, right? So I hope that's kind of what you're referring to. A lot of flight schools, like I remember the flight school I went to, they call it professional pilot course 1, then professional pilot course 2, but these are just fancy names for the training curriculum itself, all right? All right, let's see, what time is it? It's almost 5. So I'm gonna wrap this up in like 5 minutes, and because I got other things to catch up on. Of course, it's been very nice interacting with all of you, answering your questions. It's been great. I'll try to do more of it as time permits. The other important thing is, again, I will try to make videos when I can. The big part of my schedule is always the fact that I'm not always here. So for example, when I start working again, I'll be gone for about a week, and that means I'm in hotel rooms every night or every day for most part, and that just makes it hard to record, and you don't have all the light and stuff that you need. But I'll try to come on here, answer questions. I'll keep making those videos when I get a chance. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. I'll try to respond. I know I've been slacking on that because I do have a lot of questions that I'm trying to reply to, but I'm going to catch on And I'm wishing you guys the best of luck in all your endeavors, and hopefully you get to achieve your dreams of becoming a pilot. And of course, have a good week and stay blessed.